Do you get back from a ride and feel disappointed straight away? You get back from the ride and you're looking at your data and your power numbers, they're just the same. And your heart just sinks. No new power numbers, no new KOMs, even though you're putting in the work consistently. Or even if you do hit a PB, it's just not as high as you'd hoped. Well, you're not alone. The good news is that there is a change that you can make now that can make a big difference to your cycling power. And actually, in many cases, it might not take that long to start working, and you can start using it on your next ride. This video isn't just about managing your power in real time to optimize your training, but also about making sure that you don't stifle or worse, damage your cycling fitness. And that thing is this. To improve your power, you need to understand how to use your training data in real time to adjust your training sessions on the fly. Why? So you know when to push. Because if you take on too much stress and don't recover, you will break down. Conversely, if you don't push yourself hard enough, you won't enjoy positive results. You can only achieve that balance if you monitor your metrics in real time with one simple method. The annoying thing about training data is that there is lots of it. In the modern cycling world, you are always being told that having access to more data is the key to successfully completing any activity. In the world of cycling, this huge amount of information comes from power meters, heart rate monitors, NIR sensors, real-time glucose monitors, and other devices. This information can be very helpful, but only if you know how to make sense of it. So what are the best metrics to use, and what is the best way to use them? The answer is a method inspired by a master coach named Will Kirasis and adapted for cyclists. The method is called intensity metric triangulation. And I know it sounds complicated, and in some ways it is an advanced method of using intensity zones. But all levels of riders can easily do it. So let's break it down. The three most useful measures of intensity for cyclists are power output, how much stress you're placing on yourself, heart rate, how much strain you are experiencing from this stress, and torque test responses, how to adjust intensity based on cardiac drift. So why do you use these three metrics? Well, the same reason Tadej Pogačar and his team UAE, use them. With a blend of key objective and subjective metrics, we can get a good picture from enough sources to make informed decisions on the fly. And the interesting thing about how UAE uses power, heart rate, and self-reported measures is that they use them to monitor fitness and fatigue weekly. This is a good plan, and I will use it sometimes with athletes. However, testing once a week could mean that you're actually missing out on some chances to push harder, because the key to higher power is always nudging yourself along and keeping yourself accountable to progress by finding ways to make things just a little bit harder, and then a little bit harder again, and so on and so on. And this is the same with recreational riders like us, who have the added stress of work. We can train okay, but it's often hard to find the right balance between stress and rest, and more importantly, we don't know how our bodies respond on any given day. Before we learn how to triangulate, let's take a look at the metrics. And for sure, these metrics can be utilized effectively on their own, but they can also be used in tandem to truly dial in the best intensity in a given session. You can combine the input from two or more of these metrics at the same time to get the same impact. So starting with power. Power is a measure of external stress. The amount of work that you're doing is indicated by your power output. When you're cycling, power output is an extremely precise measure of intensity. However, power output does not provide a complete picture of what's going on in your body. Because riding at 200 watts on a very hot day, for example, is more stressful than riding at 200 watts on a very cool day. Heart rate is a measure of internal strain. While riding, your heart rate tells you how strained you are. It considers the stress of the ride that you're doing at the time, the stress of the earlier part of that ride, and heat stress and other stresses that you are currently experiencing. So, for example, you could be cycling at 200 watts, well hydrated, and have a heart rate of 160 beats per minute on one day, and you could be cycling at 200 watts on another day and you're doing it dehydrated and you have a heart rate of 165 beats per minute. And the same goes within a workout. And this is why we have number 3. The talk test is a way to measure intensity response. Riding at a constant power may impact your body to a different degree, depending on the duration of the ride. It has been shown that heart rate can increase significantly and progressively during steady-state endurance rides. And this really means we need to monitor and adjust intensity from cardiac drift during low-intensity training. Okay, so now is where the rubber hits the road. To triangulate your intensity, pay attention to the different measures of intensity available to you while you're working out. With experience, you will see that trends will help you to develop some baselines about yourself. That is, you'll see how your power, heart rate, and talk test responses tend to relate to each other at each different level of intensity. But I'll give you an example here of a steady state endurance ride where the goal is to stay below VT1, which is the aerobic threshold. So if you're doing an endurance zone 2 ride, you want your power to be at between 60 and 70% of critical power, heart rate between 70 and 75 of max heart rate if you're a newer rider, and 75 to 80% if you're an experienced rider. And then there's the alphabet test, where you're starting at minimum 4 minutes into a steady state interval, and then you're taking a deep breath in and you're trying to get through the alphabet basically in one go. You should be able to get through it by taking a deep breath, and then if you get through it, you're under your VT1. And the trick is to time it so that you finish your alphabet and then you take a breath. If you get through it and you don't need to take a breath, it's too easy and you need to lift the pace a little. Now, to be most effective with this method, you need to have ways to adjust based on what results you get. And these are the most common reactions you will see in workouts. So let's just try to relate this to a ride to make a little bit more sense of it. So you have your targets, and when you check, how do you adjust? The first response is what I'm calling spot on. And what's happening is power is where it should be, heart rate is where it should be for this power, and the torque test is where it should be for this power. What it means is that everything is spot on. And what to do about it is to continue on as planned. And this is what you're going to experience most often. Number 2 is what I call the real sweet spot. And what's happening is power is where it should be, heart rate is lower than it should be for this power, and the torque test is where it should be for this power. What this means is that you are very fresh for this workout because you are in excellent recovery balance. What do you do here? You just continue as planned. And this will happen from time to time if you consistently get enough sleep, rest, and food. This is a great place to be. The third one is on the up. What's happening? Power is higher than it should be. Heart rate is where it should be for this power, and the torque test is where it should be for this power. What this means is that you are improving. What to do is just to continue as planned. The more you are improving, the more you will experience workouts like this. When they happen, absolutely celebrate your progress. Number 4 is time to tweak. What's happening here? Power is where it should be. Heart rate is higher than it should be for this power, and torque test is higher than it should be for this power. What it means, you are getting tired as the workout progresses. You are dehydrated. You are experiencing heat stress. What to do? Continue on with the workout. but reduce your power output to bring your heart rate down into a normal range for this intensity. This happens when you're acutely tired. Easing up a bit will keep you going well. The second last one here is time to fuel. So what's happening is power output is where it should be, heart rate is lower than it should be for this power, and the torque test is higher than it should be for this power. What this means is you are most likely low on carbohydrates, and what you need to do about it is continue on with the workout, but make sure that you are executing your nutrition plan perfectly. If you fuel after this workout, make sure that you are eating enough carbohydrates. This happens when you're low on carbohydrates. With some nutrition tweaks, you will get back on track. And the final one I call red flag. What's happening here? Power output is lower than it should be. Heart rate is lower than it should be for this power. And the torque test is higher than it should be for this power. What it means is you are tired from recent workouts, life, or a combination. What you need to do here is do the first third of the workout and see if things improve. If they improve, continue on the workout. If things don't improve, stop the workout. If you stop the workout and you work with a coach, let that coach know, because some adjustments to your training plan may be in order. Make sure your sleep, rest, and nutrition habits are top-notch over the next several days. This is only one example, but very useful, because most of the time you spend on the bike will be when you're executing endurance rides. But learning how to triangulate your metrics is great for when you are riding on your own. But what about your group rides? You still have to face other riders, and that means pushing yourself to your limits and beyond. But sometimes this means that we get dropped from those group rides. What if I told you that you never have to feel the disappointment of being dropped? Because in this video, I share a method for staying with the riders who always seem to be able to smash you on those fast rides. And not only that, it has given me a secret weapon that every time you use it will let you know if you're going to make it to the end, even on the days you don't have it. In fact, this discovery has led me to believe that we're potentially approaching group rides all wrong.